Orion like a flat rock skimming across a pond. This will provide aerobraking for the vehicle, will help to dissipate some of the vehicle's inertia, and will provide data needed in the future to select multiple splashdown sites for crewed missions. We are expecting two periods during entry when the buildup of heat-generated plasma around Orion will block communications and the receipt of data with flight controllers here in Houston. The first blackout should begin around 11:20 a.m. Central Time for just under 5 minutes, right around the time of peak heating on Orion, as it travels about 25 times the speed of sound. The second blackout period is expected around 11:29 a.m. Central Time for just under 3 minutes, right after the skip entry maneuver is complete. About 5 minutes after we regain communications with Orion, the pre-programmed commands stored on board will trigger the deployment of 3 parachutes. Thank you, Philip. And again, a live view of Orion closing in on planet Earth, now about 11,000 miles away from Earth, as it continues a very, very precise trajectory for a splashdown that is scheduled at 11:39 and 42 seconds a.m. Central Time this morning. For Orion, launch from the Kennedy Space Center occurred on November 16th on the world's most powerful rocket, the Space Launch System. The first outbound powered flyby of the moon was performed 5 days later on November 21st, dipping to within about 81 miles of the lunar surface. That placed Orion on a very precise trajectory for its ultimate goal, that racetrack trajectory called the distant retrograde orbit, that would allow Orion the time and the space environment needed to test its mettle. 4 days later, Orion executed an engine firing to enter into that orbit, and the next day, Orion surpassed the record set during Apollo 13 52 years ago for the greatest distance ever traveled by a human-rated spacecraft designed to return humans to the Earth. On November 28th, Orion reached its farthest distance from the Earth, some 268,000 miles, before departing the distant retrograde orbit on December 1st. And this past Monday, Orion conducted a 3-minute, 27-second engine firing behind the moon to whip around Earth's closest neighbor for the final leg of its flight, passing to within 80 miles of the surface, turning for home, and its splashdown that is scheduled just 1 hour, 21 minutes, 44 seconds from now. The initial mission of the Artemis I program was always designed to be a test flight, wringing out all of the systems of the Space Launch System and the Orion spacecraft, and for more than 25 days it did just that. 39 and 42 seconds a.m. Central Time, 9:39 and 42 seconds a.m. Pacific Time. One thing worth noting is once Orion splashes down in the Pacific, it will stabilize in one of 2 positions, either pointed up, which is called Stable 1, or pointed down in Stable 2. The crew module uprighting system, known as the CMUS, deploys a series of 5 bright orange helium-filled bags on the top of the capsule that will either flip Orion right side up or keep it right side up in its Stable 1 position. Those 5 bags are packed in hard containers and installed atop the capsule inside the structural gussets between the parachutes and other equipment. They're inflated with helium gas that is stored in pressure vessels located close by the bags. Each bag has its own independent inflation system. The CMUS, or Crew Module Uprighting System, initiates after landing and opens up a valve for helium to flow into those uprighting bags. It is considered, at least operational, that we have 4 out of those 5 bags to inflate to maintain a Stable 1 configuration for Orion to enable Navy divers to approach the vehicle. One of the first things that they'll be looking for is any leakage of toxic gas or toxic fuel from the vehicle. Assuming there is no such leak and that Orion appears to be in good shape, then they'll begin the methodical process of approaching the vehicle with other personnel and other Navy assets in order to begin the securing of Orion on the ocean for its towing back into the well deck of the USS Portland. We're under 4 minutes now until the crew module and service module separate from one another. We'll be standing by for all of that. You can see in this telemetry-driven animation that Orion is currently traveling just under 17,000 miles an hour, just under 4,000 miles away from Earth, and a hefty 254,000 miles from the Moon, which of course was its target, in distant retrograde orbit, flying around the Moon for its outbound powered flyby at the beginning of the mission to move to a distance of some 268,000 miles away from Earth, farther than any human-rated spacecraft designed to return to Earth had ever been designed to do, surpassing the distance record established 52 years ago during the Apollo 13 mission. Here in Mission Control, the flight dynamics folks and the guidance, navigation, and control folks have put up a graphic which is essentially the ground track for Orion as it will make its way across the southern Indian Ocean, passing the northwest coast of Australia en route to its ultimate trajectory that will carry it across the Pacific. It will be moving from south to north across the Pacific Ocean to the splashdown zone, almost a direct straight line towards the point of splashdown, which will be west of Baja California. Now just under 2 minutes until crew module, service module separation. Now just 1 minute away from crew module, service module separation. We'll be standing by for confirmation of that from the mechanical systems officer here at Mission Control. "30 seconds until separation. This will come at an altitude of 3,200 statute miles. "10 seconds until set. We have confirmation of separation. Orion flying on its own. Again, the separation occurred right on time at 11 a.m. and 11 seconds Central Time, with Orion 3,200 statute miles away from Earth. The service module, the European service module, has done its job. Just 7.5 minutes until entry interface. And this view from a camera inside the cabin of Orion, this doesn't look like much at the moment, but it will soon when it shows the forward bay cover jettisoning and the initiation of the parachute deployment system. Entry interface less than 6.5 minutes from now. Just to recap, the crew module, the Orion crew module, separated from the European service module about 14.5 minutes ago, right on target as it was planned, and a short raise maneuver, a 16-second firing of Orion's thrusters, oriented the vehicle, raising it just a tad so that its heat shield was at the proper orientation in the direction of travel, to begin entry interface in about 5 minutes at an altitude of 400,000 feet above the Earth. Orion is making its way south to north across the Pacific Ocean, currently traveling at 23,000 miles an hour. We're about 5 minutes away from entering the first of the two blackout periods, which will last about 4 minutes and 48 seconds. A journey that began with the power of the launch of the Space Launch System 25.5 days ago, about to reach its final minutes in the searing heat of reentry, where temperatures around Orion will build up to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Just under 4 minutes until entry interface. Once again, at entry interface, which we will reach about 3 minutes from now, Orion will be at an altitude of 400,000 feet, traveling just under 25,000 miles an hour, with a range to splashdown of 3,659 statute miles. Within seconds after reaching entry interface, we'll begin the first of the two blackout periods that will last just under 5 minutes, about 4 minutes and 48 seconds. And here's the ground track for Orion as it passes well to the west of South America. We're just 1 minute 44 seconds away from entry interface, moving from south to north to its splashdown target west of Baja California. Just 1 minute away from entry interface. And this view from the cabin camera, looking out of the upper hatch of Orion, you can see the limb of the Earth. We're going to be losing all of the data here shortly once we enter into the Earth's atmosphere and begin the first of the two blackout periods. Standing by for entry interface and the first of the two blackout periods. We are now in the entry phase. Entry interface has begun. Entry interface at 400,000 feet. Orion traveling just under 25,000 miles an hour. We've gone into the first blackout period. This is a visualization based on what should be happening at the moment, where the temperatures around the heat shield are reaching about 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the moment of truth for Orion. We should be coming out of this first blackout period just under 4 minutes from now. Orion should be traveling about 23,326 miles an hour at the moment. Range to splashdown, 3,125 statute miles. Again, this is a visualization of what should be happening with Orion at the moment, although we are in a blackout period that should end about 3 minutes and 15 seconds from now. Once we emerge from this first blackout period, we'll conduct the skip entry maneuver that will further dissipate heat and energy and begin a very, very dramatic reduction in the velocity of Orion as it approaches its splashdown site. Clocks here in Mission Control showing the sequence of events yet to come. The first blackout period to end about 2 minutes and 18 seconds from now. The second of the two blackout periods would begin about 6 minutes from now for about 7 minutes, followed by the jettisoning of the forward bay cover. That will begin the sequence of the deployment of the parachutes. First, a pair of drogue chutes, 3 pilot parachutes that will then pull 3 main parachutes to begin the final moments of Orion's descent back to its splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. 1 minute to go until we come out of this first blackout period. When we emerge from this first blackout period, we'll be at an altitude of 274,000 feet, traveling just under 17,000 miles an hour with a range to splashdown of 2,000 statute miles. Standing by for a reacquisition of signal. And we have data from Orion. Orion out of the blackout period. Flight Dynamics reports that Orion is right on the money, coming right down the pike. A good view out of the cabin camera looking out of the upper hatch of Orion. We should be performing the skip entry maneuver momentarily. Good communications established with Orion. (150,000 feet off the ocean). Orion now traveling at Mach 10. Orion's speed now down to Mach 6. Two minutes until forward bay cover jettisoning. Orion 100,000 feet now. The spacecraft about to go subsonic. 45 seconds until forward bay cover jettisoning. Orion now at 50,000 feet. Forward bay cover jettisoning pyros are armed. $25,000 feet. Drogues have been deployed. Two good drogue shoots reported by the recovery team out in the Pacific. The descent rate is right on the money. Orion's velocity now down to 282 miles an hour. Range to splashdown 1.5 miles. 10,000 feet now. And we're on mains. 5,000 feet. Reefing in progress. Three good main shoots for Orion. We have three fully inflated main chutes. Time to splash down 90 seconds. Perfect descent rate reported. And there it is, high over the Pacific, America's new ticket to ride to the moon and beyond now in view. Orion under its chutes descending toward splashdown. Orion in the perfect orientation for splashdown, just seconds away. $1,000 feet. Good descent rate. $500 feet. Splashdown. From Tranquility Base to Taurus Littrow to the tranquil waters of the Pacific, the latest chapter of NASA's journey to the moon comes to a close. Orion, back on Earth. Unofficial splashdown time, 11:40 and 30 seconds a.m. Central Time. At a mission elapsed time of 25 days, 10 hours, 54 minutes, 50 seconds. That's unofficial. Splashing down off the coast of Baja California. The crew module uprighting system now being inflated for the bags currently being inflated. And we have a report that Orion is stable 1, upright, the way it should be. Once again, splashdown occurring at 11:40 a.m. Central Time, 9:40 a.m. Pacific Time, west of Baja California, after a textbook entry for the Orion spacecraft, bringing its 25-and-a-half-day mission to an end. Orion's recovery beacon is on. We have confirmation that 4 out of the 5 crew module uprighting system bags have fully inflated, standing by for word on the 5th one. But Orion is in great shape, stable 1, just in the orientation that had been expected. This is Mission Control Houston. Once again, the Orion spacecraft, having completed a journey of 1.4 million miles, bobbing gently in the Pacific Ocean. 4 out of its 5 crew module uprighting system bags have been deployed. We're standing by for word on the 5th. However, irrespectful of that, it is in stable 1 configuration, in good shape, according to the recovery team. And we are now receiving word that all 5 of the crew module uprighting system bags are fully inflated. So that's exactly what we had hoped for. Orion safely bobbing up and down in the Pacific Ocean. This is Mission Control Houston. You're looking at the Orion spacecraft that splashed down about 6.5 minutes ago at 11:40 a.m. Central Time, 9:40 a.m. Pacific Time. We are estimating that it splashed down around 5 nautical miles away from the USS Portland. The recovery ship and Navy boats and divers will be approaching the vehicle before long. The spacecraft is in what is called a stable 1 configuration, upright, just the way we had expected it to be. 5 perfectly inflated crew module uprighting system bags, maintaining a nice gentle configuration for Orion. First of the Navy helicopters now approaching the vehicle. And here in Mission Control, some of Orion's systems no longer needed are being powered down. Many of them will stay powered up for the next 2 hours while we conduct a series of test objectives to characterize the thermal conditioning of the spacecraft. That will be important for future data for crewed missions to determine how long the crews can remain comfortable inside a vehicle returning from the moon. We also will be conducting tests of the beacon and SARSAT system for maintaining tracking of the spacecraft, for recovery forces that will be approaching the spacecraft in the future. And coming up in the next hour and a half will be the reactivation of an ammonia boiler system that will provide cooling in the spacecraft, as it will when crews return from their missions on board Orion.
with its CMIS bags. Those are the uprighting bags, fully deployed. It's in a stable condition. And to the right of that, you see the first Navy boat. That's a rigid hull boat. That one is the one that's going to get a little closer and provide a stabilizing tow line once it's been determined that the Navy boats can get a little closer. As we pan just to the right of that, you will see the remaining 4 boats. 2 of those boats are inflatable boats with Navy sailors aboard. Those Navy sailors will put hands on the capsule and secure it with ropes. They will then maneuver to bring that capsule to the rear of the USS Portland. The Portland will then throw out a more than 1,000-foot rope and then several 400-foot ropes. And that long rope will then attach to the capsule. It'll connect up and then begin pulling the Orion in. Now, this is a very complex operation. You think about this. That capsule does not have a keel, so it's a smooth bottom, 16.5 feet in diameter. So when it is pulled, it doesn't track in the water very well. So what has to happen is there are ropes attached to 4 points around the capsule that help stabilize it. Navy sailors, a team on each of the 4 ropes, and then on a 5th rope will be the winch. And that winch will apply enough pressure required, enough pulling force to bring that capsule into the well deck of the ship. At the moment, as we've been telling you, we are currently standing by awaiting ammonia boil-off. This is the coolant that's provided on the Orion capsule. It keeps the astronauts, should there, once they eventually go into the capsule and go on missions to the moon. Currently, no astronauts in this capsule, but we've got to vent off the ammonia nonetheless. The allotted time for that is 2 hours. And so we are just 1 hour and 10 minutes into that waiting period. And then once it's clear, you'll see those Navy boats get closer. But currently, we are still standing by, waiting for the completion of ammonia boil.